it in kind.
You do realise we're not even open yet?
2 packets of smoky bacon crisps.
Very well. There's a special favour, you understand.
I don't mind doing you a favour, Mrs. Walker. Every little helps when times is hard.
Hard?
Well, I had heard that some of the best suppers round here have started taking their custom to the Flying Horse.
Oh, Mrs. Sharples, if one or two of our regular patrons choose to patronise another establishment, I think you will agree that that is their privilege.
Oh, I do.
Whether what they find there matches what they have already found here is, of course, another matter, but it is still a free country.
Yes, I bet you didn't think about that when you started turning this place into Stalag 17. Still, you've not much to worry about, really.
Oh?
They always come back in the end, when they think you've learned your lesson.
Oh, morning, Mrs. Walker. Parky again, isn't it?
Mrs. Ogden, I think you will concede that I have never introduced the stopwatch or the slide rule into your activities here.
Oh, no, Mrs. Walker.
But would it be asking too much for you to occasionally put in an appearance before opening time?
Oh, yeah, well, I'm sorry, Mrs. Walker, only it's our stand, you see.
Your stand?
Yeah, it's glass shoulder-like, you know, ever since the crash.
Really?
He has got a bottle from the doctor to elevate his suffering during the daylight hours, but I have to go very easy on the rubbing, you see, in case he can't get off to sleep again before I go out to work.
Jack, I am not sure that I can go on much longer.
Neither am I. We're about 15 quid down on last New Year, and I reckon 5 of that stand I've done.
There's a limit to how much a woman of my age can take.
Oh, well, I reckon you should have thought of that before you got rid of Betty Turpin, shouldn't you?
Oh, Jack, nothing that happened between Mrs. Turpin and myself is a source of regret to me.
Oh,
Not that I've ever been one to bear grudge, as you know.
what's that supposed to mean?
What it means, dear, is that if Mrs. Turpin sees the error of her ways and wants to come back to us, I will not be unresponsive to the idea.
Oh, well, there's just one snag to that, isn't there, Annie?
Is there?
She doesn't blooming well wish to. And what's more, I'm not going to blooming well ask her.
Well, good riddance to bad rubbish with that one, Mrs. Walker.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, put some folk behind a boozer bar, they think they're Queen Mother, don't they? Oh, present company exonerated, of course. No, what I'm implying is, if you'll take my advice, Mrs. Walker, you'll keep that one well away from Mr. Walker.
Mrs. Ogden, to the best of my belief, I have never taken your advice in anything. And I'm certainly not going to start now.
So he just stood you up, did he?
It's all right.
He didn't think you were in one place and you thought that he said he was in another.
No.
So he's still alive and kicking.
As far as I know or care.
Hey, that isn't him in the back, is it? Going up in smoke.
No, that's just a pile of old newspapers our burner's using to ruin Ina Sharple's washing. Not that she knows yet, nor was it intentional. But life's full of little surprises, isn't it?
Hey, remember me? I'm the fellow whose wall you knock on every time you're in trouble.
Look, will you get into your thick head that I'm not knocking on anybody's wall and I'm not in trouble? He just stood me up, all right?
All right.
Look, as far as I know, it's happened before and I reckon it'll happen again, and it's not the end of the world and I'm not dying of a broken heart. So let's talk about something else, shall we?
Still, it's not like him.
Look, I don't want to know.
Fair enough. What shall we talk about?
You think of something.
Like what?
Like something begins with A that causes a minor sensation at the Flying Horse every time she collects the glasses.
All right.
What's she like?
You've been listening to the Jungle Telegraph again, haven't you?
Well?
You'd like her.
Oh?
You've a lot in common.
Yeah. But perhaps they've not got one thing in common.
She's a bit younger than you, if that's what you mean.
Younger than both of us.
Yeah.
How much longer?
Young enough to make some folk mention it.
I see. And does it matter?
Not to me.
What about her?
Well, if it does, she doesn't mention it.
Oh, Len, love, you're not going to make a fool of yourself again, are you?
Well, if I do, I'll just have to knock on the wall. Won't I, darling?
Can I go in and see him then?
Not now, Sandra. Mr. Turpin's in there helping him to get dressed.
What happened last night?
Oh, it all happened so quickly. Events are rather hard to tabulate. But first Ray stood up and then, well, he fell down in a dead faint.
But why wasn't he taken to hospital?
Because the doctor did indicate it wasn't necessary. It's quite common in these cases, apparently, and Ray did make something of a rapid recovery.
You mean he can walk now, then?
I'm afraid it's not quite as straightforward as that, Sandra.
Dead legs, you better.
How are you this morning, Ray?
Well, I would like to announce that I've just done a quick 4 laps round the dressing table. I'd like to, but I can't.
Oh, dear.
But don't send me to the knacker's yard just yet, because I did feel a distinct touch of the old pins and needles in my left foot not half an hour since.
Well, you never told me that.
No, well, there are some things your best friends wouldn't tell you, aren't there, Cyril?
What did the doctor say to you last night?
Well, I can't say I remember much of what anybody said last night.
Not much, actually, except to say that he'd be round first thing to see the patient this morning. Oh, well, I must be off then.
Oh, I'll come with you and spread the good news.
Aye, well, don't go let it on too thick, Sandra. I mean, we don't want to raise Sir Alf Ramsey's hopes just yet, do we?
You know, somebody ought to walk in front of you with a red flag.
Well, well, if it isn't the Lion of Vienna.
How do?
Oh, if you've called about that little trip of ours, you'll have to hang on a bit while the doctor's been.
Ah, yeah, well, that's what I've come to tell you about.
What?
I only remembered them this morning.
Remembered what?
Me weak ankles. I couldn't possibly wear these high-heel shoes, else I might dislocate myself.
How's that then?
Of course, it stands to reason, doesn't it, when you come to think about it?
What does?
Life in Australia superior to what it is here.
Well, if it is, it's the first I've heard about it.
Well, I mean, it's a young country, isn't it? Land of opportunity for them what's ready to take it. Of course, it's not everybody what has it, is it? The pioneering spirit.
Isn't it?
Well, not like my Emma and David has. Takes a bit of guts, does that, you know, pulling up your roots and going to the other side of the world. Not like a lot of youngsters these days, satisfied to stop here in England and desiccate. How's your Dennis getting on then, down the south of England?
Look, Hilda, he may not be scalping Indians or building log cabins, but at least he's not scriking to come home every night like some folk I could mention.
You are?
You heard.
Who's striking to come home?
Oh, forget it, Hilda.
I say, were them your kids I saw knocking lumps off one another this morning?
This morning and every morning.
Lizzie and Maggie used to be just the same.
Oh, well, I know who my money would have been on.
Oh, well, I'd have said that, but according to our Lizzie, she was the one who got all the stick. 'Cause she hadn't lost a girlish figure in them days.
Talking about fighting the good fight.
Yeah?
Has Maggie given hers up then? Over you know who?
Oh, not if me and Lizzie got anything to do about it, she hasn't. He might be a rough diamond, might Len Fairclough, but I reckon them two could do the world of good for each other.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'll go.
Mrs. Turpin. Oh, would you like to come this way?
Ah, I'm afraid she's a bit poorly this morning, Mrs. Walker. Can I do anything for you?
Oh, I'll see you later.
Yes, Mrs. Walker?
Sergeant Turpin, I think you will agree that Elizabeth and I are both positive personalities, and therefore a little friction is bound to arise from time to time.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more, Mrs. Walker. Only from what I heard, it wasn't friction that caused the trouble, but suspicion. Unfounded suspicion at that.
Ah, well, now, if I haven't apologised for that so far, it is simply because the opportunity has not presented itself. I take it that Mrs. Turpin has not yet found alternative work, speedy recovery. And do tell her that there's always a place for her at the Rose Return, if ever she feels that she would like to rejoin us.
Are you asking, Mrs. Walker?
Oh, I think I've made my position perfectly clear.
Well, are you asking or aren't you?
Well, I should have thought that was obvious.
Right. In that case, I'll tell her. And we'll let you know.
I don't know what you're worried about, Bernard, honest. I mean, it's all in the mind acting, isn't it, Miss Nugent?
Well, that would be one way of defining it, I suppose.
Tell him what you once told me, you know, about that Russian fella.
Stanislavski.
That's it, Stanislavski, the happy Russian.
Stanis who?
Oh, I remember him. Used to play for Blackpool on the wing.
Go on then, tell him.
Well, to take a rudimentary example, let's suppose that Bernard wanted to be a tree.
A tree?
To give a truly telling performance, one would have to convince oneself that one actually was a tree.
Right then, Squire. Now, say after me, I am a tree.
You what?
Say after me, I am a tree.
I am a tree.
Ah, you eckers like.
Eh?
Well, put your flipping branches up then.
Ain't it marvellous, eh? Hey, 2 months ago I would have knocked my front teeth out. But you can get used to anything in time.
I'm sorry, Auntie Elsie. I was just trying to convince myself I was a tree.
Yes, love. Well, the next time you come near me, shout timber, will you?
You know what's wrong with you, don't you?
Which particular bit you on about now?
You've got no confidence in yourself.
Oh?
You can be such a striking-looking one when you take a bit of trouble with yourself.
Thanks very much. Now, do you mind telling me what you're on about?
What do you think I'm on about?
Not the faintest idea.
I'm on about you. Letting a bit of a kid take a fella from under your nose.
Oh, I see. That's what you're on about.
Without so much as putting up a fight for him.
Oh, Val, don't you start. I've had Betty on at me all week. Anyway, I've told you what he feels about her.
Well, what he feels about her doesn't matter, does it? I mean, he's at that age, isn't he?
What do you mean?
I mean, never mind what he thinks about her. What does she think about him? You don't know, do you?
No.
Well, if I was you, I would find out then.
Now then, you are Nurse Goodbody of the Weatherfield Welfare Department, right?
Right.
Well, get your hand on your hip, Goodbody, and mince over there.
I can't.
Can't?
No.
How's that?
Hey, you've got your wheel on my scarf.
Hello? I should be late back for work.
Well, I shouldn't bother about that. Would you like a drink?
Yeah.
Huh?
I do trust there's not going to be an ugly scene.
Funny, that's just what I was thinking.
No, thanks.
Come on, Elsie.
I said no, thanks.
Do you require anything?
Yes, a little bit of privacy for a change, if you don't mind, please.
I see.
You were saying?
About New Year's Eve.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, well, before you start bothering to make excuses, can I tell you that I've heard them all before?
I'm not going to make any excuses.
Oh, well, that's new at least.
I stood you up deliberately.
You what?
I stood you up deliberately. Now, what about that drink?
Come through, will you?
There's more room behind these shops than you'd think, isn't there?
Yeah.
Do you live here on your own, then?
My sister and her husband live with me. But do you like a cup of tea?
Oh, no thanks, I'll have to be getting back. What exactly was it you wanted to talk to me about?
It's funny, I knew exactly what I wanted to talk to you about before I asked you back.
Oh.
About you and Len.
Yeah.
I take it you are still going out together?
Yes.
You don't sound so sure.
Oh, it's not really that.
Oh?
Well, I was just wondering why you wanted to know.
Fair question. But before I answer it, can I ask you something?
Yeah, if you like.
How serious are you about Len?
Oh, why'd you want to know that?
Well, Len and me have been friends now for a long time.
Just friends?
Nothing more.
You're married, aren't you?
That's right.
But you and your husband are separated.
Did Len tell you that?
He mentioned it.
I see. Well, you still haven't answered my question.
You still haven't told me why you want to know.
Well, let's just say I don't want to see him hurt again, shall we?
Hurt?
That's right.
Well, why should I want to hurt
I
him?
didn't say you wanted to. Well?
I don't know yet. Oh, I like him, you know. But we've only known each other a few weeks.
Yeah. Well, thanks for telling me.
Yeah. Well, I'd better be getting back then. Oh, any friend of Len's is a friend of mine, you know.
Oh, Sergeant Turpin. Now, may we expect Mrs. Turpin shortly?
How do you mean, Mrs. Walker?
Well, you did tell her that I'd approached you with a view to her resuming work here.
Oh, yes, I told her all right, Mrs. Walker. She said she'd think about it.
You didn't want to get involved.
That's right.
What about me?
What about you?
I'll tell you something about getting involved, as you call it, sailor. I've been getting involved ever since I stopped eating jam butties walking down the street. And if I'd got two brains to rub together, I wouldn't ever look at another man again.
But you do look, don't you?
Yes, I do. And you know why?
Go on.
Because I still think it's possible for two grown-up people to go out and have a good time together without getting to the plate-chucking stage.
You mean that if a man and a woman enjoy each other's company, they don't necessarily have to have marriage in mind?
I mean exactly that.
I'll drink to that.
What did you say then?
Nothing.
About your pins and needles.
I've told you nothing.
He must have said something.
I think there's something you ought to realise about doctors, Sandra. They're like prime ministers. They like to leave all their options open. Look, I might be on my pins in a few months, or I might be stuck with it.
Oh, see. In that case, you better start watching what you're saying to me, hadn't you?
Oh?
'Cause if I don't have you, nobody else will.
Didn't your mum ever warn you about hanging round fellas like me?
Why do you think I left home?
I'd like a word with you.
Huh?
I think the snug's free.
Excuse me. Hilda, if you've got anything to say, you better say it, because I'm half an hour late for work already.
I just want to know what you meant by what you said.
What I said?
About our Irma. I take it was our Irma you was referring to.
I don't recall mentioning any names.
No, well, you don't have to, do you? I might not be much of a scholar, but I can read between the lines.
Oh, Hilda. Look, you were just a bit irritating. Just forget it, eh?
Oh, I'm afraid it's gone too far for that.
Look, love, it was really none of my business.
Well, you should have thought of that before you opened your big mouth, shouldn't you?
You what?
You heard.
I see. Right, Mrs. Upton, you want to know what I'm on about?
Yeah.
Right, I'll tell you. You think your Irma is living a life of Riley down under, don't you?
That's right.
No, Chuck, that's wrong. She hates every flaming minute of it.
I don't believe you.
Well, believe it or not, that's what she told me when she was here.
Oh, keep your head still. You know, the terrible thing is that it suits you.
Oh, well, that's it now. These are tight. Do I look all right, then?
What do you think?
I don't know who he reminds me of most, Julie Christie or Batman.
Right, well, I'll just get these on and then I'm off.
Don't do anything I wouldn't do.
And don't talk to any strange fellas.
Morning, Auntie Elsie.
No, don't tell me. I don't want to know. I just want to plead ignorance when his mam rings up and asks. Oh, that flaming woman.
Oh, me ma'am?
Oh, don't be so soft, Sandra.
What's wrong?
Isn't it marvellous how some people can needle you into saying things that you've no intention of saying in the first place, and then managing to make you feel real bad about it afterwards?
And you told Elsie then?
Yes,
Just like that?
that's right.
Just like that. And afterwards, did she, or did you crack a bottle over her head and leave you for dead?
What's more, we're seeing each other again tomorrow night.
Coincidence!
Why?
Well, I'm seeing Anita again tomorrow night.
You want to make a foursome?
Like old times?
Uh-huh. What do you suggest?
Well, how does a good meal, a good brew, and a game of shimmy in the back room grab you?
Fine.
I know just the place.
Come on, you lot in there. Let's be having you.
You hear that, everybody? They're ready for off?
Right.
Now remember what I told you. Be careful.
You don't have to worry about me.
It wasn't really you she was worrying about, was it, Chuck?
Right then, Squire, off we go. Hey, and if you see any sailors, just shout Danny LaRue and head for the nearest sanctuary.
You never make it.
Look at the legs. Oh, dear me. It's better go chewing. Oh, come on, we're going to be late.
Oh, I hope he'll be all right. Oh, I shouldn't worry about our Bernard. Bernard's got more sense than we give him credit for. Unless it's not our Bernard you're worried about.
I don't know what you mean.
Don't you? And how long has this been going on?
I've already told you nothing's going on.
Uh-huh. But you, do fancy him, don't you?
He's all right.
Have you told him yet?
Of course not.
Oh, why not?
Well, I couldn't, could I? Besides, he might think I just felt sorry for him or something.
And do you?
No. What do you take me for?
About what you said about our Irma.
Oh, look, Hilda, I didn't mean
No,
anything.
I just wanted to ask you if you'll keep what you know to yourself for the time being, like. You see, I don't want it to get back to our Stan, because he'd be very upset, would Stan, if he thought Irma was unhappy over there.
Why don't I keep my big mouth shut?
Hey, you know, just think, Bernard, if they sent you to the Crimea instead of Florence Nightingale, it'd all have been over in 6 months. You'd have frightened the Russians to death. Come on, then.
Excuse me, nurse. I wonder if you could render some assistance. A woman's just fainting. Yes. I think I better have your name and address there, if you don't mind.
Yes. Bernard Butler, 11 Coronation Street, Weatherfield.
Right,
Come on, Bernard.